River family. We're so glad we get to be with you today. We'll be talking about the Holy Spirit all week. And today we're going to be in Romans chapter 8.
Absolutely.
So if you want to look, I love Romans chapter 8. You could basically just
live there.
Any of those verses. But we'll start in verse 9 and then we'll read verse 14. And remember, this is Amplified Version this week.
Talking about the Holy Spirit.
But you are not living the life of the flesh.
That's
you
right.
are living the life of the Spirit, if the Holy Spirit of God dwells within you. But if anyone does not possess the Holy Spirit of Christ, he is none of his and does not belong to him. It also says in Romans 8:14, for all who are led by the Spirit of God are the sons of God.
Right. So there's a catch-22. One is if you haven't received the Holy Spirit, you don't have him. But if you've received him and you're not acting like you received him, you got a problem. You have to turn him on. You have to give him place.
That's true.
If you are led by him, you're a son of God. If you have him and you're not being led, then you just have him. It's like having a gun that will protect you and not getting it out when there's a wild bear.
That's good. I like that. But
Okay.
honestly, I think we're talking to everybody that has the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And we are children of God. And
Right.
so what we
So we
want to
gotta
talk
pull it
about
out.
today is,
Use
what
it.
does it mean to be led by the Spirit of God?
Right.
And for us, the way that we are led by the Spirit of God, Oz hears the Holy Spirit one way, I hear the Holy Spirit a different way. And it's really can freak people out if you're sitting under a teacher and you hear the Holy Spirit differently.
That's right.
Then you think, well, how come I don't hear that? Or you think you're missing it because you're not hearing it their way.
Or you didn't know there was another way. You're right. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we want to allow freedom for how you hear from the Holy Spirit. So how do you hear from the Holy Spirit, Ozzy?
Most of the time, there are two ways. One is I will actually hear something or see it. And if I hear it, and when I say hear it, I don't mean with my ears. I mean inside. If I'm talking with someone and it's like there's a conversation and I hear, their dog is sick, you should pray for their dog. And I'm like, I don't even know that they have a dog. And I said, do you have a dog? And is it sick? And they're like, how in the world do you know?
Yes.
Well, it wasn't me. I'm just following the leading of the
So
Lord.
you hear it. Is it like an impression?
It's a sense. I sense
a
it.
sense on the inside. So it's not necessarily like you hear with
Audible.
your physical
Right,
ears.
right.
There's like a knowing that you have.
Yes.
And then sometimes you see things.
Often I see things, and when I see them, I've told the Lord over and over again, I'm not gonna do that. But if I see myself doing it,
Yeah.
I will. And there are many times in which I'm with Jane or whatever, and I will get up and go somewhere
Yeah.
and say something to someone,
Yeah.
and she's like, I can't believe you did that. And I said, well, I wouldn't have done that,
Right.
but I saw myself do that.
And what does that look like to see? I mean, you're obviously not seeing something. So what do you see?
Well, I
Are
am.
you-
I am.
Okay.
I
so
actually
is it
see
like a
myself walk.
movie?
Yeah, it's like a movie. I see myself walk
Okay.
over and say something or whatever.
So this to me, just so you know, because I think it's really healthy. This often happens if we're out to lunch. Not emotionally, but we're somewhere out to lunch. And someone will be there, and Oz will say, oh, I'll be right back. And he'll walk across the restaurant and talk to someone, and he'll come back and say, I just saw myself. And I'm talking to him, and we're having a conversation.
Then I unplugged and listened to the Lord.
That's right. But I guess what I want to say is he's carrying on his natural life, and the Holy Spirit interrupts you. And because you have chosen to yield to the Holy Spirit, it's easier now. Because I think when it first started
And it happens
happening,
more.
Exactly. When you first started to see or get impressions, you were less likely to believe
Oh,
it
it's
because
freaky
it
weird.
was quiet, wasn't
Why
it?
would you go do that? I mean, who would say? It reminds me of that silly story. I say it's silly because I think it's really ridiculous. When the Lord told this guy to give this gal $5, and he's like,
Yeah.
$5? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You
How's that
can't
gonna
even get a
help?
good Starbucks. I mean, at least you couldn't get my Starbucks for $5. And he walks up and gives her finally, in obedience, gives her the
Yes.
$5, and she totally breaks down.
Yes.
Has a response, an extreme response, and he's like, I don't understand. She said, you would never believe it, but I just said, Lord, if you're real,
Yes.
have someone walk up and give me $5.
That's incredible.
And so there's no way, our obedience, you see, we like to say, Lord, give us the entire picture, let us
Yes.
understand everything, and we'll do it. And he said, do what I say, and then you'll find out.
So to me, it's really helpful to understand that as we are his children
Yeah.
and we are led by him, for me, I begin to make that my declaration. I am God's child and I am led by his Spirit. That means he is going to lead me in a direction.
Yeah.
He's actually going to interrupt my life and say, hey, I want you to go this way, or hey, have you... He actually reminds me a lot of things. He reminds me of things all the time so I don't forget things.
And it's not our thinking.
Right.
And so someone can come up a half an hour later and say, could you tell me again what you said?
Yes.
And you're like,
I have no idea.
no. I mean, honestly, because it comes through my heart. It
Yes.
doesn't come through my mind.
Yes.
And because it comes through my heart, you say and then you walk away. And often the ability to remember it is really impaired. And I remember I was talking with someone recently in our church, and I felt like the Lord said, boy, they're a pillar. They're a pillar for me.
Yes.
And they're a leader for me. And I walked up and I was talking with them, and I said, I just really want to encourage you. You're a pillar. And they said, you said that to me 2 weeks ago when we were just new in the church. You walked up and I'm like, wow, that is so cool. I didn't bother me. I thought it was cool because I had the same impression.
Yes.
I just didn't remember I said it because it wasn't me. It was the Holy Spirit
It's
saying
really
it.
good.
Amen.
It's really good. So, I really encourage you. We'd really love it if you would comment on ways that the Holy Spirit leads you.
That's right.
Pastor Oz gets impressions and he sees things. How does the Holy Spirit reveal to you so that you know which direction to go?
During praise and worship, I stand often, I'm looking over the congregation for the Lord to highlight someone. That is
Yes.
to really bring them to my attention. And sometimes I'll have an idea why, and sometimes I don't know until I go over and pray for them, and the Lord will lead me.
It's really good. So,
How does the Lord lead you?
well, we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Okay, tomorrow. We'll pick that up.
Bye.
Bye.